that started. And it's a little earlier than I told you, but that went pretty quick. So let's just go ahead and get started.
Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Thanks to Shelly for inviting me. I am the Assistant Director of Sound Harmony Chorus and also the Assistant Director of the Seattle Sea Chordsmen. And that's where most of my expertise on this subject comes from. I'll share my screen here. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So, just so you know, I have a reference document with all of the information that I'm going to speak out loud from this presentation that I'll share with you afterwards. So you don't need to take notes. You don't need to remember everything. I will send you basically a transcript of what I said. And also this is being recorded. So either way that you want to come back and review, it should be easy to do that. Our learning objectives. We are going to learn to maintain pitch in our section or chorus by first addressing possible underlying causes of flatting, then building tonal center awareness, then building vocal agility and flexibility. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat so we have a record of them. I'm also planning to save, this shouldn't take the full 20 minutes, so I'm also planning to have a little bit of extra time for questions and discussion at the end. So, suppose you are running a sectional, you're running through a song and your section keeps flatting. Before you actually address the flatting directly, I recommend trying to address possible underlying causes of flatting, which will make your job easier. One of the biggest causes of flatting is tension in the body. And one of the biggest causes of tension in the body, especially in a sectional where people are often looking down at music, is poor alignment. Often I walk into my baritone section and they look like they're studying for a test. Sitting down at a table, bent over. So I recommend never letting singers practice with poor alignment. You can say, lift your sheet music up to your eyes so you don't need to compromise your alignment. If they practice with poor alignment, they'll get used to that. They'll get used to flatting. So hold high standards for that. Another possible underlying cause of flatting, oversinging. If you are in a space where it's hard for singers to hear themselves, they will often sing louder than they need to in order to hear themselves. This causes tension and flatting as well, causes strain. So remind singers that the goal is not to compete with each other, but to unify with each other. You can even do a little activity where you say, choose one person near you, point to that person, you're going to listen to that person and that person only and try to match them perfectly. You're trying to match them so that your voice doesn't stick out and so that their voice doesn't stick out, which should prevent people from just getting really soft. You could also have people hold hands up to their ears so they can hear themselves better. You could have people spread apart so they can hear themselves better. Or if you're in a really echoey space, it might even make sense to move somewhere else. When singers can hear themselves well, they're less likely to oversing. Another possible underlying cause, vowel mismatch. Surprisingly, vowel mismatch is a big cause of flatting because when singers are singing different vowels, they feel that they aren't quite locking with each other, but they can't tell why. And so they inevitably adjust downwards to try to fix it. And then everybody goes flat together. So a way to fix this is if you have a vowel that repeats often, let's say sky, define how you want it to be sung. Like everybody say sky, sky, and make sure everybody's unified on the vowel. A possible cause is an inadequate warm-up. Everybody needs different
Mm-mm.
amounts of warming up
Mm-mm.
for their voice to feel very totally free and prepared to sing. Just like an athlete, you wouldn't work out without stretching. Stretching prevents you from getting injured. Um, so if singers have not had a thorough enough warm up, they may strain to reach high notes.
Mm-mm.
And you may want to encourage singers, if they're struggling to reach the high notes, to do extra warm up before rehearsal, if they need that. Okay, so you've dealt with all these underlying causes. We're singing in great quality in our sectional, great alignment, everybody's warm, but we're still going flat. What do we do next? We want to teach singers how to tell if they're flat, how to discern if they're actually singing in key. So we can do some exercises to build tonal center awareness. The tonal center is the key center.
Nobody
So one
puts a view on.
exercise is
Uh,
I
it's
call the droning exercise.
20.
Make sure you're muted. Thank you. So how this works, let's say you're in a sectional, is you have half of the section at a time sing their part against a drone, against the key center. And the other half listens and is going to report on where they were in tune and where were they out of tune. And then the singing section will have a chance to try again and adjust. Emphasizing that this is primarily a exercise for the listener. This is primarily an exercise for the listener to get better at telling where are they flat, where are they in tune. That will take a little bit of the stress off of the singing group, and also everybody's gonna sing, so nobody's really being called out here. And then you switch, the other half will listen and the other half will sing against the drone. If you're doing this with a whole chorus, you would have one section at a time do this, which is also great because it gives everyone more awareness of what each section is doing. Another way to build tonal center awareness is to use an app like TE Tuner to get immediate visual feedback on whether you're in tune or not. This is my go-to for individuals who want to practice staying in key at home because they can just sing into their phone and see if they are on the right note. When working with a group, you might want to use an iPad. One large device works better than each person having their own individual device when you're all singing at the same time. And in order to make this effective, you have to sing really one note at a time. Sing way slower than you think. Sing the note, adjust. Once it's perfect, sing the next note. It's going to feel extremely slow, but it will be very effective in teaching you where you're going flat.
Francis, there's a question in the chat.
Ah,
Cheryl's asking, when using TE Tuner, do you have a favorite tone, such as soft piano or?
that's a great question. I would leave that up to the individual. I think mine's still on the default E. It's like a very technological sound. I like the one that I can hear easiest when I'm singing. Good question. Yeah, keep putting questions in the chat if you have them. So we use those two exercises, the TE Tuner and the drone, to teach singers to listen for if they're going flat. But let's say they can tell they're flat, but they can't fix it. I keep going flat and it's so frustrating because my voice won't do what I tell it to do. How can we build the vocal agility and flexibility to have control over our voices so that we can sing in tune once we know what that sounds like? This is an exercise I stole from Joe Cerruti, who came and coached the C Chordsmen last year. It's called the new exercise. What you do is you have singers sing new, sing new over and over again. They're going to sing it 4 times at the beginning, aiming for the final new to be a half step higher than the first new, with equal distance traveled between each of the 4 news. I'll see if I can demonstrate. Okay. New, 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 new. So I moved up a half step, but I'm really moving a third of a half step each time. I'm breaking down that half step into teeny tiny pieces between each new. After that, you sing 8 news, aiming to be 1/2 step higher by the end. And then you sing 16 news, aiming to be 1/2 step higher by the end. This is a challenging exercise when I do this with the C chordsman. It's really hard to gradually get slightly higher because what we're used to is gradually sinking. Here is a slightly.
Oh, sorry,
Oh, was that a
Francis.
question?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
question. When droning, are you droning on different vowels?
Uh, good question. So you would be for the droning exercise, you would be singing the song normally against a droning pitch. So the whatever device you're using, like a pitch pipe or a recording, is going e, and you're singing on a wonderful day like today against that drone. You could also do it on a do 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 do, which might be helpful if you think that the vowels or the consonants are a cause of the flatting. But I just do it on words. Good question. So here's a slightly easier version of the new exercise, but it's similar. I call this the sliding exercise. So you start by having your section or chorus slide up an octave smoothly in 4 counts. So it might sound like do, and then slide down. Do. So I'm trying to slide evenly, but in a certain amount of time. And then once they've mastered that, you slide up and down just a fifth. So it'll sound like do, and then back down. Do. And after that, you just slide up and down a second, one full step. So it'll sound like do, do, and so you're sliding smaller and smaller increments each time. You're going to have to move slower and slower. And what this does is next time you're singing a song and you're a little bit flat, this gives you the muscle memory, the flexibility to be able to just slide up a little bit and fix it.
So, Francis, some people are having black boxes on the presentation. I'm not sure how to solve that necessarily, but you'll share the will you share the PowerPoint after this
Yeah,
session?
is the black box just on the let's see, right now, is the black box just on the right hand side and the top of the screen? Or is there like a big black box in the middle?
It's on this, for me, it's on the side. I don't know about everybody else. I'm
Yeah,
seeing
so
the
that's
side one.
how I'm seeing all of your faces.
Oh, okay.
And it is blocking if I move it over a little bit, that'll make it a little bit better.
So, let me try
But
something.
all the text is on the left side, so hopefully it's just blocking the pictures slightly.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? And when you see one pop into the middle, that's me looking at the chat. It won't let you see anything that I can't see on my screen. Okay. That was building vocal agility and flexibility. What if it's just one singer? What if you're in a sectional and let's say you have 10 people and one person is just really struggling not to go flat. I recommend the fold-in technique is probably the most useful way to try to solve that problem in the moment with one person who's struggling. You ask an accurate singer, at least accurate in this moment, to model what should this little phrase sound like. They sing it. Then you add 2 to 3 people at a time, singing it over and over again. So you add 2 more people, those 3 people sing. Then you add 2 more people, those 5 people sing. Then you add 2 more people, those 7 people sing. And by the time you get to the group that includes the person who you suspect was having an issue, they've heard it correct so many times in a row that they are much more likely to sing it accurately on the last time. Let's see. If that's not working, if the fold-in technique is not working, and this one singer is consistently having flatting issues, it might be time to talk to them one-on-one. Work with the singer privately to determine what they need to be successful. Do they need to work with TE Tuner at home? Do they need a better warm-up? Do they need to warm up a little bit extra on the way to chorus? Are they singing the right voice part? Maybe they need to switch to a lower voice part. It's a good time to get advice from your director as well. But before you do that, check these possible underlying causes. Mismatched vowel, oversinging, poor alignment. Often just fixing alignment will fix everything. It's really an underrated issue in sectionals in particular. Let's see, making sure I'm not missing anything. The fold-in technique is also really good for guests. If you have a guest who is learning how does barbershop work and how does this group sing, using the fold-in technique allows them to hear, here's the right way, here's the way that we're doing it over and over again, and then be included without singling them out and saying, listen, you're singing this way and we sing this way. So it's a good way to assimilate guests quickly. Oh, I remember the last thing I was going to say. Some singers want to be told when they're flat. So the fold-in technique is kind of a gentle way to have someone hear the right way over and over again and then be included. But some people just want to know. And if you have that relationship, that's totally fine. You can just say, Sarah, you're a little flat. Sing high on this note. And they'll often fix it. You don't have to be afraid of that. Okay, so I am now going to share with you the reference sheet that has pretty much everything I said on it. You can look at that to help you think of questions and like review what we just said. But I want to know either out loud or in the chat what questions you have, or is there any particular situation that you're thinking of that you want advice about? Let me get that link for you to the reference sheet. Share. Okay, I'm putting it in the chat right now. Seeing if I missed any questions in the chat. Oh yeah, when I was singing, it popped out because I didn't have original sound on. Whoops. If anyone would like me to demonstrate that again, I could, but I don't think I can turn on original sound in this particular meeting. So how do you help someone who oversings? So the first thing I do is remind them you're not competing with anyone, you're trying to unify. So listen to one person next to you and try to match everything they're doing. Sometimes we say in sound harmony, we have one person stand in front of another person, and we tell the person in front, I want you to completely surrender to everything about the voice behind you. And that helps people let go and truly match. Any other specifics about the over singing? Is that like with related to pitch matching, or is something else happening? Are they like straining all the time? Um,
Well, there's a certain member that just is got a very powerful voice and stands out. I guess is more of a, and I have to remind them to kind of pull back and blend. I guess is maybe more. I don't know if it's really over singing, but they're very powerful.
Absolutely. So I think that is a good time to talk about how in barbershop, each individual should sing in such a way that they don't stick out and their neighbor doesn't stick out. So it may be that that person is over singing because the people around them can't match their power or whatever, but it could also be that the people around them need to sing with more efficiency and more power, and then they won't stick out. So there's a balance, and you can explain it. You can be transparent with them, like there's a balance here that we're trying to reach, where we sound like one voice. You also might have to try moving people around, because if people are doing their best to match and it's just not happening, the next thing to try is standing arrangement, because sometimes people who sound similar will help each other not stick out. Good question. Reading the chat. Any other questions or thoughts on specific scenarios? Yeah, I see a hand. Julie?
Is that Julie? Yeah. Hi, Frances.
Hi.
I do run into in all the many groups I've sang in, and I notice this more with the younger folks because they have a more developed chest, that there's quite a few younger people that can take their chest voice all the way up to a C.
Mm-hmm.
And then those of us who mix, it's really hard to match that sound. What is your, well, it's really hard. I can't take my chest voice up to a C. Well, I wouldn't want to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mix it to get up there. And so and a lot of it is they were blessed. They have a great voice. And how would you marry those two? How would you approach that? These would be great singers, by the way.
What'd you say?
These are great singers, but their voice is just so strong up high, mm-hmm. because they get to sing their chest voice up there.
Let me ask a question. Do you know anything about their background? Like, are they Broadway trained, or do they have access to their head voice? Do they know about that already, or is this just what they're doing?
Some do know about that, depending if they had choir background, if they had like Broadway trained, or they, yeah, it's the different training and bringing them in. It's really tough. And they have very mastered voices, which, mm-hmm. yeah, it's just getting them to buy the Kool-Aid, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess the belting is a problem if either it totally sticks out, which is what it sounds like in this instance, or it's strained. So if this person is for someone who's pretty flexible, and for someone where you can say, can you sing that in your head voice? Because everyone else is singing in their head voice and it has to match. I think I would be pretty direct and say, like, hey, at this climax of the song, that might fit. But in this other part of the song where we're all singing in our head voice and we're baritones and we're above the lead and it's gentle, like whatever's going on in the song, explain that in that part of the song, it makes sense for them to use their head voice. It might make sense to talk about it in what the music needs and what the rest of the chorus can do there than say
Mhm.
like never sing in your chest voice in barbershop, because sometimes it'll make sense.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes it can be a real gift.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that could
Okay.
be a really good, Julie, a good topic to have
Mhm.
a whole session on, because I think that's, it seems, and this is just my experience, it seems like the trend is going more towards what you bring to the table, not trying to match versus blend versus, how do
Mhm.
you keep your natural voice and free voice, but still sing as an ensemble? I think
Yeah.
that's a big topic, like a topic that we could really dig into. So I like that. I wrote it down.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes when you tell everyone to match, everyone gets really soft. And so you
Mhm.
have to navigate, how do you ask people to unify with people around them, which is important, without uh, diminishing their sound, because we want as much sound from each individual as possible at the same time.
Yeah.
I see a question from Deborah. I haven't heard you talk about breath support issues as a contributing factor. Ooh, that's a good question. Um, Yes, especially if you're syncing at the ends of phrases, you could have a breath support issue affecting pitch. The way we handle that in the C Chordsman is, this is another Joe Cerruti thing that we stole and kept. It's called the 20% rule. And the idea is you are going to sing your best 80% of the song, and you're allowed to just not sing up to 20% of the song in order to breathe, swallow, whatever you need to do. Notes that are really high for you or really low for you. But anyway, lots of sneak breathing is encouraged at the C Chordsman. If someone is often running out of air at the end of a phrase, I would have really everyone in the section choose words that they're going to drop and take an extra breath on. You really have to. I've found in the C Chordsman, because a lot of people do have breath support challenges. People need to be taught how to sneak breathe. I have everyone circle a word that they're not going to sing, and then we try to sing the phrase, and it's really hard for them to not sing that word and breathe. So you have to practice it. And then it's really effective. Then the whole phrase sounds stronger once everybody's getting an extra breath in there.
It also feels a little bit like at a recent coaching session that we had, we practiced walking and singing, building
Mm.
stamina, just building stamina in general. And I think that that's a thing that can be really useful in that case as well. I think what was it that we were doing? Yeah, just walking and singing, because that simulates what happens when you do a performance, right? It's bringing your heart rate up. It's doing a lot of those things that can kind of help build the breast support. I think that was a Katie Holly one, by the way. I'll give her credit. that help that we've been doing that to help build stamina, which then impacts breast support.
I love that, Shelley. You made me think of another, like, that's an exercise that can support people having more breath support. You could also teach singers how to sing more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So using less air can help them sing longer, sustain longer. Yeah, Sonia.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hi, Francis.
Hello.
Hi, backing up to the sneak breathing. I'm thinking this could apply both. If I say in the section, right? Don't catch your breath when your buddy in your section, who might be standing somewhere else in the chorus lineup, but is it also your neighbors that you're standing by in a baritone might be between a bass and a lead, and you don't want all three of them taking a breath, but they're technically in different sections. So I wasn't sure if my
Mm-hmm.
brain to focus on the section first, right? That's what this is about, right? So the art of taking a sneak breath, certainly not when someone else in your same section, a critical part of a song, and you don't want the
Yeah, I think I
note to
understand
drop out.
what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rule we use is every individual singer can only keep track of so much, right? So your job is to make sure you always have enough air. The section leader's job is to make sure the whole section isn't breathing at the same time and not breathing during places where the chorus is not supposed to breathe. Beyond that, I would let the director decide if there are any places where too many people are breathing, any gaps, and because they're the only one who's listening to all of that at once, and then let them fix it. Yeah, Yetter, did I pronounce your name right?
But my first name is Joe. I just haven't changed it on my Zoom. It's interesting to me. My daughter and I sing the same part. We're both basses. Our voices sound very, very similar. And we almost always are placed with me either a riser behind her or off to the set behind her. And our breath support must be about the same because we have laughed at each other many times learning a song and we breathe exactly in the same place. So we consistently have to say, okay, we're breathing there and it's leaving a big hole right here. So, and I'm the section leader. So I said, okay, you choose what word you're going to breathe on, and then I'll breathe somewhere else and I will plan that breath. So there are many songs, especially in contest songs, that we have to plan our breaths that way and not breathe. I mean, we can't take a breath where Lucy says no breathing. You know, we have to watch out for those. So we actually have to plan our breaths, the two of us, at least.
Yeah, that sounds like a good way to solve that problem. I'm very familiar with the mother-daughter mind meld that can happen.
All right. Well, I think we're probably reaching the end of the time for Frances. Does anyone have any last questions before we move on to the next piece?
I just want to say thanks, Frances. This was very helpful, and you've given us some real practical things that we can take back to chorus and do this week. So thank you. Appreciate that very much.
No problem. I saw a hand from Carol.
Go ahead.
You're muted, Carol.
There. I was trying to bring up your reference paper, and I got it up, but I couldn't get it to print. How do I do that?
You may need to download it first.
Can I do that from this link?
Yeah, so does it open a Google Docs page for you?
Carol, I can print it for you and bring it next week if you'd like.
Who is that?
Karen.
Okay, Karen. Yeah, I would like that. And could you then also maybe send it to Sue?
Sure, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will actually send it as an attachment out as well to the full group, like the people that have that section leader, assistant director role for the region. I'll send that out too. So
okay,
but there you got your
that,
individual.
then I'm okay. I can get it as a download. I mean,
great.
as an attachment.
Yeah, great.
That'll be easier. I am confident we could figure out. I am used to teaching online computer science, so we could figure it out given enough time. But there are better solutions.
Other solutions easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
anybody.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll say one more thing. Since the sound didn't work when I was modeling things, if anybody wants to talk through an exercise, I would be happy to do that, like on another Zoom call. Just let me know.
Great. Oh, go ahead, Sonia.
Yeah, I know we need to move on to the next segment. I was going to do a go back to that great question that Julie Hagstrom had about, you've got singers that have quite a range, right? They just have more, they can really bring the heat in a quality way, but is it just too much? and Jules, I'm sure you do this and your director does this, right? The job of each part, right? The cone, that element, something that really started to make sense when I've been in those situations or in whatever ensemble is describing in a way that if there's too much, if I call it heat, and I mean that in a good way, I mean that as a compliment, from one or more sections, it may push another section out of their sweet spot, right? So let's say we want to keep the leads always in their sweet spot of production, of vocal production. But if one or more of the other sections are, whether it's over singing and it's maybe really quality, it's really beautiful, it's just too much, that osmosis, that inertia, that energy in the ensemble will start to push other singers, again, I'll just example of the leads, may push them out of their sweet spot. So maybe if it's described in that way, they can finesse it or rein it in so that the leads always stay in their sweet spot of execution. So anyway, I think you're right, Shelley. That is that'd be a whole session all on its own.
I think it could be a great topic for us to just really explore, because I think it's a common issue. And then, like Julie was saying, sometimes it's not that they're singing poor quality, it's good quality. So you don't want to lose the good quality, but you also need to have the right balance of voices, because it's an ensemble, it's a team sport, right? All right. So this is great. Thank you, Frances. Let's give Frances a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming today. Kind of at the last minute, I think there was a scramble to reach out to regional faculty, and she stepped up and said, yeah, I can do that. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise. We are kind of getting close to the end. So one of the homework assignments that I had shared last quarter was to do some analysis of your own, of watching some of those videos from International Convention or any videos of choirs or choruses or whatever, to practice analyzing, identifying things that could use some work, and going through that. And one of the thoughts that came to mind was, probably about a year ago, we had a conversation at one of these, kind of developed a framework. As coaches or section leaders or assistant directors, we are actually there to help lead our sections and to help teach. And so we talked about this framework. And so because of the limited time, instead of getting into the examples that you all may have thought about, and I want to encourage you to remember those, we'll bring that back next time. I want to bring up the framework that we had talked about and just talk through that a little bit and see what you all think, and if we think that this is a good thing to share with all of our other section leaders and musical leaders. So I'm going to bring that up. Let me see if I can share my screen here. And it's really about helping our singers to be better versions, or better at what they're trying to do. And then for us to also have enough focus that we can actually make a difference. So the first step that we had come up with was identifying what the problem is, right? Picking one skill or opportunity that we want to work on, and make sure that we're clear on that and not trying to do a dozen things at once. So that was the first thing. The second thing was then assessing, okay, what is, and this is actually Frances's framework that she talked about was really similar. Look at what is the cause, what could the root cause be that's causing that, or what are some tools that you can use for that particular opportunity. So we can build up our toolbox to find ways, because sometimes we may not know what the cause is, so then we go to our toolbox and start using that to figure out to kind of figure out what it is that might be that might work to resolve the issue or improve upon it. Then we always want to communicate in a positive, clear, and precise way. So making sure that we're using clear instructions so people understand what it is we're working on, and what the next step, what it is that you want them to do, and be clear and precise about that, but also always be positive. I always like to say with my section leaders is our first rule is always do no harm. So whatever you do, do no harm. We're there to help people improve and to be a family, and so that's one thing that we always want to think about. Then of course we're going to take action. So we've identified what we want to work on. We've determined what we're going to use, what the cause is, and what we're going to use to work on that opportunity. Then we're going to communicate what it is we're going to do, and in a positive and clear and precise way, and we'll work it out together. And then regardless of what happens, we always celebrate. So even if all they did was do the thing and it didn't fix the thing, then we celebrate that they did the thing. If it made it better, all the more things to celebrate. So this was a framework that we talked about, like I said, about a year ago. It was a relatively small group, so I don't know if any of you were there, but I just wanted to share this with you because I think it can help us as we're working with our sections or smaller groups to help be just a little more focused in what the work is that we're doing. So I just want to open up and get your thoughts on that. What do you think?
This is Deborah.
Yeah.
I was there when we talked about this, and I really like this framework. It's simple. You can just remember it. It's not hard to remember. And if you just do the simple basic things, that fixes like 80% of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can spend, different time on the other 20%. But this particular framework is really simple, and it keeps it very positive. And I like that.
So part of the homework assignment was to really kind of take this framework and then look at a video of a chorus, or watching if you were at international convention, great, or even as we go to regional convention, think about from a leader perspective of how you could work through this framework, and then we were going to share those ideas. And we do have about 10 minutes. Does anyone want to share something that they picked out? And we don't need to say which chorus it was or anything like that, or it could even be an experience you had, but talk through how you may have utilized something similar, or maybe even something that's different that works well for you. And it's okay if you don't have anything. We don't have to get to it all together, but I'm going to send this out to everybody. And
Hey, Shelley, can I add something?
Oh, sure. Jump in.
This is Frances. My camera's off just because I'm feeding Heidi. But I love this framework. I think that the hardest thing to do is to pick just one thing and then go through all the steps on one thing before you add another thing. And when you do manage to focus on just one skill, you actually teach it better to the group.
So, hey, Shelley,
Jump
it's
in.
Julie.
Yep.
I would be one that would struggle with the pick one skill. I like to see progress, and sometimes it takes more than one to get the progress out. So are you talking, is this in coaching in general?
It would be, so from like a section leader perspective, you're working with your section on something.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that you would only work on one thing ever. It means one thing at a time.
I'm really,
right.
Yeah, I'm really one of those very specific persons. So like you're saying, work on breathing. Well, sometimes you need to do breathing along with, okay, let's try to have that blendable sound, or we need to make sure that we're getting the target vowels right. There's so many, singing is so complex in many ways. It's just more than one thing always. And
right.
but I'm a literal person, so I probably took that wrong.
No, actually, that's really what it means is that for most of our singers, they don't have a lot of experience. And
Hmm.
it's easier for them to work on one thing at a time. It doesn't mean you wouldn't ever then, like maybe 10 minutes later, work on something else. But it's
Okay.
give it in order to give them really clear, precise instruction on what it is that you
Hmm.
want to do. The simpler you can break it down to to whatever the core skill or opportunity is. You may change your tools. You may change your approach to that on how you're
Hmm.
working on that skill or opportunity, but that's the framework around it, is to keep it simpler so that the singers can see success quicker.
Okay. So I
But
wonder
that
if that could be rewritten, pick just one skill at a time, and you could move on later in that session, because some people will take that very literal,
mhm.
and you may never get, people want to get better. Most people do. And so it sometimes takes two skills in one session to really get something really going well.
Julie, I'm imagining you could do this whole process in 60 seconds. And you could fit 10 of them into one sectional
Yeah.
potentially,
Yeah. But
if everybody's
yeah.
picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. To
But
me, it
if you
limits me, like
say,
I'm not allowed to say
change this
anything other than
vowel,
that.
oh,
Hmm.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you say, change this vowel and change the way you're breathing, and now
Hmm.
try it. If you give two
Yeah.
skills at once, they're just not going to be as successful.
So
Correct.
I wonder if it would be helpful to add an adjust or adapt type of step, because what I think I'm hearing you say is that you may try something and then you need to try something else, or build something else into that approach.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
or
yeah.
layering. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of
I
how
mean,
the
we
best.
could talk about breathing every session, because as you grow older, our breathing, depending on what our bodies go through, it's a constant working thing. It just never goes away.
Right.
And so you think of one thing when you want them to, I guess I think mastering, we're not all going to master everything for sure. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of that. Like, I struggle with my breathing at this age. That is my biggest struggle I have at this moment. And then it interferes with the other tools. And I'm sure I'm not the only singer that struggles with this part of singing, which is a basic tool. But yeah.
So I guess for one thing that like maybe this will help a little bit. It doesn't mean we don't forget all of those things that we have worked on in addition, but if we're identifying a specific struggle, for
Hmm.
example, maybe my chorus is having trouble singing smoothly through this particular phrase, and I'd really like this legato sound. That's the
Yeah.
skill that I want to work on, right? Is a legato sound through this particular phrase. Um, I'm going to do a quick assessment of what do I think is causing that, or what tools can I use, and I may have more than one thing in my
Okay.
mind that's causing, or one tool that I want to use. But then when I go to work with them, I'm going to try to be very clear about, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to sing that phrase pretending like our hands are moving through jello or something like that,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
using, and I want you to actually really take your hand and move it just as though it's going through jello, right? And then
Hmm.
so I'm clear on what I'm asking them to do, and then do it. And then maybe that didn't work, so then I try something different, or maybe we try bubbling or something different. So I think that's what the framework is trying to help for those section leaders that are not that are there aren't weren't always sure what they should work
Yes.
on first, right?
Okay.
So sometimes the hardest thing is just picking that thing. What do I work on first? And so
Hmm.
that's part of what the framework's for.
True. Where
Does
I
that
approach it like, which one should I throw in here first?
right?
And when you're newer at it, it's just, I just don't want them to feel limited. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I
Right.
get what you're saying, one thing at a time. Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about this? We can talk more about it next time. But this is just a suggestion, right? So if you what the goal of the exercise would be for next time is to observe something that you want to work on and talk through your process, whether it be this or if you have another one you want to share, because it's nothing's a one size fits all situation, and maybe a different approach would work better for some of the other people in our group. That's one of the main purposes of this group, is to share with each other. Yes, we bring in special guests and stuff like that, but there's a lot we can learn from each other, right? So that's what we want to do. So I'm going to throw this out to the group, but I will encourage you to share if you have your own thoughts. But that will be what we will do next time, which the next time, just so everybody knows, I'm going to stop sharing this for now, is April 26th, Saturday, April 26th, and we try to rotate the time around so that it's better for some of our Alaska friends and all of that. So this one will be at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 11 a.m. Mountain and 9 a.m. Alaska time. Fun to have 3 different time zones in our region. So, any other last minute questions from people? Thank you all for sharing your Saturday with us. This is always a great group. I appreciate you coming.
Okay. I do have one question.
Sure.
Do any of you have trouble with, I mean, our chorus has had trouble with visually being alive, okay? But then we have a couple of members in my section that go way overboard, and it affects their sound. How do you balance that so that, you know, you want them to be visually alive, but their face doesn't have to be